set up a work session where we can sit down and go through a lot of details. All right. I want to bring up the first part is, we have a lot now of organic experience on the planning committee as well as contractors. Mr. Waters, for example, brings a wealth of historical restoration, preservation experience. So we're very well staffed. What we've learned, all right? I will go through the space, the needs in a little bit more detail on the next slide. But you can see that the basic numbers for the judicial facilities and the county administration. ADA access and single egress issues, not to say that we're in violation of anything, but it sure could be better, all right? The roof study that you funded found that the jail, courthouse, and the old admin building roofs had 0 to 1 year of remaining life. In other words, they're ready to go right now. Visitor center and the Commonwealth Attorney was 2 to 4 years, right? And they gave estimates for those, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The masonry study that we've all been, and thank you for funding that as well, that we've all been waiting for, found many of the same things, that significant water infiltration into the treasurer's and Commonwealth Commissioner Revenue buildings is firm. Previous repairs did not last long and probably actually made some of the problems worse. They recommended repointing 100% of the treasurer and Commissioner Revenue building, repointing 25% of the courthouse, improving gutters and downspouts, removing the concrete parging, improve the water drainage around the buildings, particularly the sidewalks were right up in the head. There's 3 downspouts that drain right by the building. All right. We did not investigate, that study did not investigate the jail or the clerk's office. The jail chimneys appear to be a life and safety issue, 2 older ones. You can't see any mortar, and we are concerned that, 4, okay, 4 chimneys, sorry. But concerned that they could come down in heavy winds or something. So that's an immediate concern. The clerk's office right here is missing caps on the parapets and on the chimneys. We started doing some architectural concepts. I'm not going to show them today, but that's for the work session. But again, I'm going to emphasize they're just concepts of the ideas for different parts. All right, we're not proposing anything yet. Next slide on the space needs. If you haven't seen this, to see what the existing space requirements are, a couple things I want to point out is that you just go to those first 2 lines of court facilities, you will see that just to replace the functions, well, when we have to redo the court, we have to bring it up to current standards. To do that for just the functions in this building alone requires 2.5, almost 3,000 more square feet because of the new requirements. So one of the issues is it staying here, you're adding on, what are you doing? Or do you want to have court in the county? On the right side, you will see that there's a number where they group things. The architect did that to say, if you put all those functions together, that's roughly the size of the space. Right? He did the same thing for county administration, and for those people that are quick on the math, you'll notice that the 10,000 is way off the numbers on the left. That's because the Board of Supervisors meeting room is not included in the part on the left, nor is, all those buildings are separate now, and so passageways in between them, the functions aren't there. So those are the big things that can take it to 10,000. Another point is you will see that the Treasurer's Office, Commissioner Revenue, and Registrar's Office both exceed the space in their existing buildings. All right, and we need to address those issues, as well as you'll see that the Extension Office had a pretty large increase in its request, and kind of surprising that the sheriff didn't ask for anything more. So what the building committee hasn't done is sit down with the stakeholders yet and review their requirements and go through them. So for example, for the treasurer's office or those 3, what is in their requirements that could be located, not co-located right in the same building? Could storage be in a different building? And one last point I would want to make is, if you're looking at existing, at the end, if you eliminate just the lease space, we have enough space here to house everything from a square footage standpoint. Even if we take out the second floor of the courthouse, we still have enough, all right? So, because that's something we talked about, taking like the original configuration, all right? If you're building a new courthouse somewhere else, you take the addition off and build it somewhere else, you'll see that the 23 is larger than the 20. Right? And the other point that you'll see down here at the bottom in real small print is the library. There's some discussion of a swap there. We don't need that much space. We don't need 4,800 square feet. It's not an option that's off the table, so to speak. Right? I'd like to turn it over to Dale to talk about the next one.
I think just to address these items, we have a lot of things going wrong, and we're trying to fix things. For instance, the roof on the jailhouse. There's been a lot of discussion, we've done some inspections, we have money to fix it, and what I'm thinking, maybe it would be better to slow down a bit. Because there's also problems with the soffit. There's problems with the gutters. There's problems with the chimney, and it's pretty bad. And if we do it and plan it carefully, we can save a lot of money. I think it's a more organized approach and plan things out so that you're not constantly fighting these battles that you'll never get ahead of. It'll be 50 years from now, you're still be chasing these things. There's a tendency to use incompatible materials in a lot of these projects. If you change the porosity of the mortar just 1%, you can destroy brick. Destroy brick is very soft. So they tend to use the wrong materials. They tend to use the wrong methods in a lot of these projects, I see. And I see I see this everywhere. If we use the wrong methods, like positioning the gutters, we dump water onto the walls. And that erodes the walls. The water falls against the sidewalk, it splashes up on the brick, and destroys the brick. We have a lot of that problem around these buildings. We also have a big problem with arch coatings. It's very destructive. And there's a big problem with adjacent concrete sidewalks that hold water close to buildings. So if we can do some things a little different, we have to save a lot of money. That's it.
Oh, wow. That is a good picture.
So what we did is, we sat down and tried to lay out the tasks that were in front of us, and we're not saying that this is all of them. And then we tried to make all the connections between them of what depends on what, right? So if you get the impression that this is complex and there's spaghetti thrown up against the wall, you've got the message, all right? So there's many interrelated tasks, and as Dale just said, coordinating them is critical. So for example, a real simple example, if you're going to scaffold a building to do something, you might as well do everything that's in front of that scaffolding at the same time. Or if you're going to do something about the sidewalks, you do that along with the downspouts and things like that, for example. But I don't want to spend a lot of time. This is just an idea of where we are right now. Down in the lower left, that red area is the plan. That's really what is the big area that we need to work on. And that's what the joint work session would be about, is giving us, the building committee, the guidance or direction that we need to put that plan together for your approval. Next slide. So, the issues that we see, you get space allocation. How do you want to do it, right? That's a discussion, and I'll talk about that more in the last slide. All right. Also wanted to help you get around how big of a number we might be talking about. And I want to say, these are rough order of magnitude. I got it. Approximate signs in there, we don't know, it's going to change. But for example, the courthouse, we got an estimate of how much it is per square foot from the architect, and it's coming out with that type of number, all right? So just so you can start wrapping your head around where the money's gonna come from. These are not budget level numbers yet, nowhere close, all right? But you need, when you think about options, you need to think about how much it's gonna be, all right? The other point is because this is such a critical part of the community, and obviously there are budget implications, we strongly believe that public acceptance is essential, it needs to be early and frequent. And so we need to figure out how to do that, all right? Next slide on the way ahead, as I've said a couple times, we would like to have a joint session, discuss these. We can pull out all the diagrams and the pictures and the details and the estimates and go through them. Because of the status of those chimneys on the jail, and because it's not really as related as the other buildings, recommending that we probably think about starting that real soon, all right? Because it's not as tied to some of these other buildings and the architectural concepts, all right? An overall, just general plan is try and, after our work session, is try and come up with a comprehensive plan set of options in the next 6 to 9 months, and then take 3 to 6 months for you all to get public approval, finalize it, and get the details and start doing the contracting, things like that. So you get an idea of some of the type of questions that we're going to talk about. Number one is affirm that the court functions remain in the county. We think that's a no-brainer, but you need to say that because, and then we're pretty much convinced that adding that much space to the back of this building is not a good idea because you're tearing into a very old structure. So you that kind of locks you into a new courthouse building, however that is done. Then preservation of the buildings, all right? Which ones do you want to do? As I said, from the space, if you do all of these on this list, you have more than enough space, all right? But note, the old church is on that list, because that's the only place where the expanded extension office fits, all right? But you have to rebuild that building or severely improve it, all right? So I was talking about, this is something for you all to think about before our session too. Architectural considerations. What do you want the look and feel? You know, on the committee, we had one option for building the building that made it look like we're pulling into a Holiday Inn. We kind of nixed that within about 3 seconds. All right, what do you want the look to be like from Bay Street? Do you want it to kind of preserve the existing atmosphere that's here in the buildings and things like that? Do we want the campus concept? Do we want to get all your county functions here? It physically does fit. Do you want them all here in the campus location? And then the space out in front of the courthouse is a community gathering area. We assume you want to keep that as a place for the community to talk when you're not in a board of supervisors meeting, getting public comment, right? Something like that. Function relocation. Again, assuming you want to eliminate or minimize lease space, right? Future, how do you want to use these historic buildings, the courthouse? And there's a long-term versus short-term approach. As I tell my accountant father all the time, piggy wise or dollar foolish, all right? So how do we want to approach that? And that gets back to the integrated hodgepodge approach. And then we need to think about not hard, fast concretes, but some time and funding constraints. Do you want to put, don't exceed this number, or get it done by this date? Things like that. Give us a feel for it. Doesn't have to be hard dates, but just a feel of where you all think you need to go. All right, so we can lay out some options for you. Okay? That's it.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks for all your work.
Hey, before you sit down, do you want to let everybody know that's watching or listening in, the members of the building committee and their background, because I think Mr. Waters, I know, has.
Myself, acquisition, engineering, architecture background, Dale, Waters, historic preservation, 40 years, I believe, doing this on some very important structures. Doug, a general citizen, I don't know all of your stuff other than seen you do construction fence at the, these guys, and, Ron, who's got electrical experience, and, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Sure.
We should make sure everybody knows who's on that committee.
I just had a couple of questions. So the remodeling number there, that was, and I know you said, you know, these are not real numbers, but, okay. So, like, but let me ask you this, separately, you talked about, in order to upgrade this building to the point it could be used as a courthouse under current and evolving safety and other requirements, I believe you said it would have to be expanded by 3,000 square feet, is that correct?
Right, the existing functions that are here require 2.5, about 2,500 square feet.
Okay, so my question is, with it, recognizing the $1 to $2 million remodeling number is not a hard number, does that, would that range for remodeling include expansion of this building? Or
We
not?
haven't looked at that option.
Okay.
You're ahead of us.
Well, yeah, I think it's an important question because I think a lot of people are,
If you did choose, my personal opinion, if you did choose to try and remain court functions in this building, that remodeling number is gonna be much larger, but of course, you don't buy the new courthouse.
right, that's
Right.
what I was
So
trying.
but the concern is, and I think I could speak for the committee in this, you start tearing into an old building like this, you don't know what you're gonna find. And it's concerning, and then you have just basic ADA access issues to this floor that make it very difficult.
You also lose functionality during the time of the renovation.
Oh, yeah, that's the other big problem, so you have to temporarily move toward.
And then, on the chimneys, just given the current state of building trades these days, how, but at the same time, given the urgency that you stated, you called it life and safety issue, so we've heard that, and we can't disregard that. How difficult will it be to find a qualified contractor who understands the mortar to use, the techniques to use, to make sure that they don't make the chimneys worse? I mean, are we in a position where we could move quickly and find somebody qualified to do that work?
Quickly is a tough question.
Right.
Good people are backed up. But
Right.
It's not something I don't think is impossible, within 6 months. But there are places, if you look at this picture, there are places of this chimney that are in the process of collapsing.
Where is that photo? I mean, what
That's
are,
in the attic.
It's in the attic.
I see.
Oh, by the way, do not go into the attic unless you are wearing breathing advice and
I don't know.
you're in hazmat.
Doesn't matter.
The bats and birds have been very busy.
Which building is it?
And another big picture question, and then
Sure.
I'll stop.
Joe,
If
you're
we,
talking about the
and I know
jail.
that we're potentially getting ahead of the discussion, but, what would happen from a space utilization standpoint, if we built a new building? What would happen to this building? Would we then have excess space? And would that then lead to a situation where we have essentially decorative buildings serving no practical purpose other than a museum for Rappahannock County?
Dale has spoken to this a couple times, you do not want to do that.
I don't want
want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
So,
for sure.
but you would, the most likely option is to put the board of supervisors meeting in here and have this as the meeting space. That comes back to the community concept, this is the community meeting area,
I see.
all right?
Well, and some administrative functions can be served in this building too.
Hmm.
Administrative functions?
Depending on what you do, if you leave the 2 floors, yes, you'll have plenty of space. If you leave both floors, you then can think about getting rid of some other buildings, like, the Commonwealth Training School, or something like that.
I mean, I think as a member of this committee, we're in a place where decisions need to be made, or guidance needs to be given from this board to the building committee. I I think port functionality is very important to most people in Rappahannock County, but I don't know that you all feel the same way. So before we go proposing, digging into what we really need our future courthouse to look at, we want to make sure that that is a priority for all members of the board. I believe that county administration should be in the courthouse row area for functionality of county government. I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't know that all my peers on the board feel that way. I know some of the buildings that we get hung up on that we question what function they would serve, versus the cost analysis on renovating them or making them more usable space. For example, the old administration building in the church. Those are real sticking points because the church in particular is going to be an extensive renovation. And I think that it's money well spent if it gets us out of that rental we've been in for $5,000 a month for years. But I just want to make sure that all of my fellow board members feel the same way. We are at a point where we've done a lot of groundwork, and I think there are decisions and guidance that we need. And it's a good annual check-in as well, and I appreciate you making the decision before today.
Well, what we really want to do, if I can interject, Ron Frazier here, I'm sorry, is that if we go ahead and set up some sort of a work session, that would, be beneficial for all members, where we can actually discuss the presentation in some detail.
And the other thing, I know some of the building committee members have offered to meet one-on-one with board members if you wanted to see things or see the materials that we've reviewed. Certainly it is a lot to digest, and we're happy to meet with you if you want to take a tour and see some of the problems that we've found.
There were plenty.
When I signed up to be on the building committee, I knew that there were a lot of things to dig into, and there's no shortage of items to work on, for sure.
Trying to drive this forward, is there a particular date for a joint meeting that would, under consideration?
And I want to make sure that the right people can be there. I don't know if we need somebody with construction, what kind of people, other than the building committee. Thank you very much for all your expertise, but there are folks you guys have been working with too, I think, so everybody else we need to have in that meeting. We need to look at dates.
We can probably get them there, but we have to have a date to work back.
All right, let's give them a date.
The two next Wednesdays, at least for me from a planning commission standpoint, are a no-go, but I'm happy to meet any other time. And I worry about the jail.
Yep.
Changes, we gotta talk about that and make a decision, it sounds like.
It wouldn't be as bad if they weren't so high up in the air.
Right.
And the roof structure underneath is amazingly in good shape. And I would hate to have to replace any of it. I mean, it's got Roman numerals carved into the wood about how the pieces went together. So it could stand a good clean.
Yeah.
Do we want to shoot for the 17th? Maybe after the 5:30?
What day of the week is,
That's Monday.
Might be good if you could see it in the daytime, walk around in the daytime.
That's true.
So we could do it, I don't know what your schedule is, Ms. Smith.
An afternoon meeting will typically work.
We're thinking 2 hours, do you have any idea?
At least, I probably won't be there on the 17th.
Can we have the chairs exchange notes and call a meeting?
Is it okay by you?
Mr. Frazier, has been chair of
Mr. Fraser, are you acceptable to the idea of having you and I come up with a date and then share them with our two different boards?
We might,
Sure.
If we're wanting consultants to possibly be available as well, then we'll want to check on their availability too.
But it sounds like.
Yeah, we could probably iron that out, yes.
Daylight does make sense, I think, and so if anybody's got work schedules that are particular days of the week that we want to avoid, please let me know. All right, Mr. Fraser, let's, attempt to have a date, by Wednesday.
Wednesday of next week?
You and I can discuss on Wednesday, today is Wednesday. Let's try Friday. You and I have a phone call Friday afternoon.
Yeah, earlier today would be better, but we can exchange emails, and get it set up.
All right, so we'll attempt to have a date, determined, of the building committee and the board by Friday. Let everybody know. Thank you very much.
You,
Thanks a lot for all the time you put into this.
Thank you.
All right, moving into new business. We have Patrick Monty here with the Rappahannock Regional Commission. And I can say that because I've been attending the meetings for a year. If you'd like to come up, sir, and talk to us about 2020 census review.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you very much. I know included on board docs for you are 4 options that Matthew caters, our GIS person in our office. And I sort of went through